Hello and welcome to Ginger Welsh Allotments. I am Bethan and today I am answering the 5 question and answers that are doing the rounds. I have very kindly been nominated by Kimmy on Kimmy's Kitchen and Garden, as well as Mr. Worm from London Worms and Garden, and also by Cookie from Cookie's Allotment Devon. So thank you all very much for the nominations and for your support on watching my channel. It's very much appreciated. So, to the questions. Number 1, why an allotment? Well, I wanted an allotment because I make my own wine and I wanted somewhere where I could grow a lot of fruit. My children are very small and I like them to be able to run around in the garden, so I didn't want to limit their space in the garden, so I wanted an allotment where it could grow quite nicely by itself. So that's more or less why I wanted an allotment, was so I could make more homemade wine. Question 2, why YouTube? Well, before I had my children, well, I still am a videographer, but I used to work a bit more before I had my children. And as a videographer, I film and edit dance shows, corporate events, weddings, that sort of thing. And I missed it when I had the children. And as I got into gardening and I watched other people on YouTube, I thought, oh, that would be really good to keep that sort of creative edge that I missed in my life. So that's why I started making the YouTube videos, as well as sort of to keep a diary. So this year, I can look back on what I was doing this time last year and see if it's better or worse. And one thing I didn't realise I would get would be the online community of all the very kind comments and constructive comments and useful advice I've had through YouTube. So I'm really, really glad that I've done it, because I've learned far more from the comments than I would have done looking through books. Number 3, how long have you been growing? I used to help my dad when I was about 6 or 7 in the garden. I used to plant the runner beans. He'd put up all the poles and everything, and then I'd go along and plant the runner beans. But I wouldn't say that was, I'd been gardening since then. Before we moved into this house, we've lived here for 3 years. And before that, we rented a house, and the patio, the garden was all patioed. So I did grow a couple of things in pots, but it was only a couple of courgettes and the odd tomato plant, and I did try butternut squash, but the pot wasn't big enough. So I wouldn't class that as when I started growing. So I would really say I started growing this time last year, because I had my allotment in December 2014. In November 2014, and I had Griff, my son, in December 2014. So I didn't do anything for the first sort of 6 months of having the allotment. And then we did grow some potatoes over there and some onions and garlic. But I didn't realise how much you had to keep on top of weeding. So anything new we planted, like carrots and parsnips, every time I went over, I couldn't tell what was the carrot seed or what was a weed. So everything just grew and I had no idea what was what. So that wasn't very successful. And then the following year, I was pregnant with Anwen. So I didn't do an awful lot that year either. So it was only last year that I really thought, right, let's get into it. And I have. And I've caught the bug, and it's all I talk about. My friends are really bored, which is just as well I've got you lot on here. Number 4, what do I grow? Well, I grow mostly fruit and vegetables, but this year I am giving flowers a go. I'd never really considered growing flowers before. It was always the fruit and the veg, because you sort of get something back from them. You know, you eat the veg and I make the wine from the fruit. But as I've researched into it, I realised that actually flowers are just as important, because they bring in the pollinators and the insects, and without them my veg won't grow. So I've given a double concerted effort for flowers this year, and I won't tell you everything I'm growing because I don't want this video to be humongously long. But I should say I'm growing everything I grew last year, and I'm giving celeriac, fennel, melon, aubergines, and probably a couple of other different veg as well this year. So wish me luck with all that. Where I'm going to put all these seedlings, I don't know. Number 5, what's your favourite thing to grow? Well, I haven't got a favourite thing to grow. I like growing everything. I do like watching the larger plants grow from tiny little seeds, like a tomato, the tiny seed of the tomato, and then you get this really long, tall plant that gives you lots of fruit is incredible. Along with pumpkins, I thought watching them grow was really good fun. But in terms of what I like to eat, then I think it's the alliums, because onions and leeks, I just love roasted onions and sautéed leeks. So does that answer that? What's your favourite? Yeah. So that's what I would say. I like to watch the big plants grow, but I like to eat the alliums. So that's my 5 questions and answers. And now everyone who I would nominate has actually already done this. And although I've subscribed to a lot of other channels through people's nominations, I haven't had a chance to look at them yet. So I'm not going to nominate 5 people to do the question and answers, but I'm going to give a shout out to the Veg Grower podcast, because I've recently been staying with my parents in Wales, and on the way back I was listening to his podcasts, and I found them really enjoyable. So please go and check them out, because it's very handy to be able to listen to podcasts as you're going around the place. Sometimes it's quite hard to find the time to sit down and watch YouTube, but you could listen to the podcasts as you go around. So that's the Veg Growers podcast, the Veg Grower podcast, and Isabella and Jaden's Garden Adventures. I really enjoy watching them as well. So thank you for watching this, and if you like it, then please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I shall now go and start sowing some celeriac.